Maya, can we begin?
I believe we can, Dawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so prompt. We'll start the meeting out with the land acknowledgement. Brian, please take it away.
Thank you, Dawn. Hello, everyone. I acknowledge with respect the Lekwungen people on whose traditional territory the FGCA stands, and the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich peoples whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day.
Thank you, Brian. Manya, we'd like to go over the protocols, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just share that document again, and I'll just go over the protocols for tonight. And if you have any questions, please make note of them and just save them for the end of when I've gone over this. So as I mentioned, this meeting will be recorded and we ask for respectful behavior in accordance with our code of conduct, of course. You've already gone through this, but when you sign in, the meeting host will check the member list and change your displayed name if you're a member to add that M, that is for voting purposes. During the meeting, please keep your microphone on mute unless the chair has recognized you to speak, just so that we don't have cross sounds and things like that. To mute and unmute yourself, you can press the microphone button on the lower left of your screen, or you can unmute by pressing and holding the space bar while you speak. And I believe if you're on the telephone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. If you'd like to move or second a motion, please raise your hand and wait for the chair to recognize you. Realizing that sometimes if we have enough people, we won't be able to have you all on one screen, so it might take a moment, so be patient. And if you have a question or comment, raise your hand and wait for the chair to recognize you. You can also type questions or comments in the chat, although it's probably more efficient to raise your hand and say them out loud. And to raise your hand, you can just do so physically, put your hand up, or you can press the raise hand button on your screen. To find this, you can click on participants and then click raise hand next to your name. Documents for the meeting, we've had a couple of questions about these, so they're all up on the website. There's a link here, although I don't think you'll be able to click it, but Dave Thompson has graciously put it in the chat. So if you'd like to access those on the website, you can do that. We also have Erin, our community development coordinator, is uploading all the documents in the chat as we go along, as we hit each item in the agenda. So you can click on that and you can download those items as they're uploaded. And then we'll be putting things up on screen as well for you to look at. So please hold any questions or comments until presentations are finished, just to make it more simple for the people presenting. And there will be some votes taking place during the meeting. Only members can vote, and we've renamed you so that we know who can vote and who cannot. Most votes will be by a show of hands. You'll need to have your video on to vote. If anyone is calling in on the phone, you will have to unmute yourself and say your vote out loud. So please feel free to interject and do that, because we can't see a video of you. So you'll have to speak up. And the chair will ask for members who are against or abstain from the motion. So when they say those against or those abstaining, you'll raise your hand and keep it raised until we announce the final count. If you do not raise your hand for against or abstained, you have voted in favor. We'll be voting on the special resolution with the polling feature of Zoom. It requires a 2/3 threshold to pass. And I think I'm actually going to leave the details of how that vote will take place until we get to that item. So it's fresher in your minds before we get to that. Any questions? I do not see any questions. Great. Thanks, everyone. So we're moving on to, most times in an AGM, we do a few fun things and we do something celebratory. This year's AGM, it's a little bit boring. We're on Zoom. We only have an hour, and we're just kind of trying to get through it and get our business accomplished with the hopes and dreams that next year we will all gather together in person and eat snacks and listen to music and whatever else wonderful things that we normally like to do at an AGM. But a few celebratory things. The first one that we would like to do is a staff recognition of years of service. So every year we recognize staff who have been with us for over 5 years, over 10 years, over 15 years. Sometimes we have people who've been with us for over 20 years, and it's a really wonderful, amazing thing. This year, we're recognizing 2 staff. Shauna Breitkreutz is a youth and family counselor at Lansdowne Middle School. She was not able to make it tonight, but I just want to let you know a little bit about Shauna because she's an exceptional human being. She's been at Lansdowne Middle School as a youth and family counselor for 5 full years. She's heading into her 6th year now. And this is one of the biggest middle schools in the district. Right now, I think they have 750 kids at one school, 2 campuses. And up until this year, she was managing all of that, all on her own as a sole youth and family counselor at that school. It's a really diverse spot. It's got kids coming from all over Victoria, and Shauna does one particular area of focus for her is working with Indigenous youth. And every year she works with the Indigenous kids in the middle school to help them create and plan and cook a big meal for all of their families. So all of the families of all the Indigenous kids at Lansdowne come. It's a big, beautiful celebration. They all eat together. And the students that Shauna works with have a chance to learn some new skills and really highlight their leadership. She's had some people learn to do airbrush tattoos for the event and learn to cook and learn to do all kinds of things. So I've learned so much from Shauna over her years here, and I'm just really thankful to have her on our team. So thank you, Shauna, and we'll be giving her a gift at a later date. And our second person that we're honoring tonight is also a really special human being, which is Gabe Coburn. And I'm going to pass this over to Christina Wilcox, the other executive director, to speak about Gabe.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. So like Vanya introduced, we love to recognize our staff. We're so fortunate here to have just a plethora of extraordinary individuals that come to our organization. Some come and go, and some that stay with us for extended periods of time. Gabe Coburn has been with us for 5 years, and she has held a number of different roles. She, as well, I should mention, was not able to attend tonight. They're doing some staff training. She started with us in 2016 as a team lead in our out of school care program and has grown since then. She has been a family programs facilitator, an assistant manager at Margaret Jenkins out of school care program, a summer camp manager, and then currently holds the position of out of school care manager at our Fairfield location, which offers care to Sir James Douglas Elementary School. Gabe is, when I think about Gabe and how I've had the pleasure of working with her, she's just such a consistent and reliable, dynamic individual who has really brought her passion for cooking. She has a really strong passion for cooking into her work. She's actually also pursuing her early childhood education here in collaboration with our center. Out of school care has seen its ups and downs through the pandemic, and I don't think it would have seen as many ups had it not been for Gabe. And so we just want to acknowledge what a valuable member she is to our team and thank her for her contributions. And I will end with a little quote from one of her staff, one of the individuals that works for Gabe, and that Gabe really brings a dynamic energy to the group of staff. More often than not, she's laughing and smiling with her colleagues and the children. And that, I think, just sums up Gabe in a nice little quote. So I will pass it off back to Vanya.
Thank you, Christina. It's a good tribute of Gabe. We're lucky to have her. Our next bit is a little bit bittersweet here. All of our board members will know, but the rest of you are probably not aware. So our president, Don Mansour, who's here with us and who's chairing this meeting as he chairs, all of our AGMs for several years. Don has been with us as our president for the past 6 years, and he's now reaching the end of his term limit. So he's having to step down as president. And we wanted to just take this time to really honor Don and honor his contributions to the FGCA and to his community. I think anyone who knows Don knows there's only one Don. You know, he's a very unique individual. He brings so much to every position that he holds, and he holds a lot of them. You'll see if you look at our annual report later, there's a partial list of some of the positions that he holds around Victoria currently, but I think normally he's on, say, 10 to 20 boards at a time. So he's a busy man. His appointment book is always full. And we've been really, really lucky over the years to have Don be a part of our association, and to really, you know, I can tell, Don, that you've always really prioritized your work here at the FGCA, and you've made yourself available whenever we've needed you, and you've just put your heart and soul into this organization, and it really shows. And I just want to share a little bit. One of the first times I met Don, he had just rejoined the board. He's been on the board previously, but he had just rejoined 6 years ago. And I sat down with him and with Joan Katarski, our previous executive director, to just get to know him a little better. And like if you know Don, you will know he has a lot of stories. He has lived a full and interesting life. And some of the stories that he shared with me that day, he shared the time that he was working in Buckingham Palace and ran into the Queen of England down in the kitchen going for a midnight snack. And he shared when he was in Cuba during the revolution and had to be evacuated from the hotel he was working at. And I thought to myself, this is going to be an interesting ride with Don. He's an interesting guy who's been around and just has such a great worldview and a great perspective. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting 6 years, Don, and we've been through so much as a team. You oversaw the transition from Joan, who was executive director for 19 years, to myself and Christina, and took a big chance on this leadership model of having 2 executive directors. And you've supported us, you've championed us along the way. You know, you've given us what we needed to succeed in our roles, and we thank you for that. We've started so many new programs since you've started that I can't even count them all, but new childcare programs, new food programs. We've been able to expand so much under your leadership. We've seen a lot of change in the neighborhood and the ups and downs and roller coaster that comes with that. And you have led us through that change. And then if that wasn't enough, we had a pandemic to deal with. And, you know, yourself and the rest of the board were an invaluable support to Christina and I and the rest of the staff as we went through that. We couldn't have done it without you. I still marvel at how well we came through that. I know it's not over, but, you know, I think we all did a really good job of continuing to focus on the community and serve the community, and your leadership was invaluable through that. And one thing I appreciate the most about you, Don, is your sense of humor. You know, you always forwarding good jokes and little video clips and stuff on email. And I just appreciate those little pieces to lighten the load for all of us who are doing this important work. So do have a look in the annual report. We've done a little write-up about Don. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been a wild ride, and it's been a real pleasure. And I know you're going to stay connected because I know you're passionate about the FGCA, and I know you're going to stay busy because you always do.
Well, thank you so much for those lovely words. In a little while, when I give my president's report, I'll say something back nice about you too as well. Thank you.
That's why we said it, Don. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So moving into the call to order, I will call the meeting to order. Thank you. We established a quorum. We do have 10 voting members, so we do have a quorum. Thank you for that. The first thing I need is a motion to accept the AGM agenda. So moved by Brian Rowley. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Brian Monte. Any questions? Anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining from the motion? Thank you. Motion carried. Next item up is a motion to accept the minutes of last year's October 26, 2020 AGM. I need a motion to accept those minutes. Don't be shy, folks. Thank you, Joan. You have a seconder? Thank you, Daniel. And are there any questions regarding the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Is anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining from the motion? Hearing none, motion has been approved. Thank you. Next item up is a motion to accept the minutes of the general meeting of April 12th, 2021. The reason that's on here is because we had a general meeting back then, and this is the first general meeting again, even though it's an AGM, to accept those minutes. So I need someone to move to accept the minutes of the general meeting of April 12th, 2021. So moved by Lynn. Do I have a seconder? So moved, seconded by Julia. Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry, it's Mary, and I only got the 2 documents on the changes. I got no minutes to go on or agenda.
Vanya, can you answer that?
Yeah, hi Mary. I didn't send them in an email. I let you all know that they were on the website and I sent a link. So they're all up on the FGCA website.
Oh,
If you go to About Us and then AGM. So I don't know if you have access to a computer or if you are
I'm
on a
an
computer,
iPad.
you're on an iPad. So you may be able to see in the chat, if you hover over the bottom of your screen and click on chat, all the documents are up in the chat. I can also share.
in the chat.
Mhm.
Oh, let's see.
Okay. There is a motion on the table right now. We do have a mover and a seconder. I'll call the question. Anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining from the motion? Hearing no one abstaining or against, I'll call the motion carried. Thank you very much. So we move on to the president's report. Well, honored guests, friends, fellow FGCA board staff, and city representatives, thank you so much for joining us this evening at our AGM. I am very proud to have been given the opportunity to serve as your president for the past 6 years. This has been truly rewarding and interesting journey for me. There are many wonderful people in this community association with great energy, helping to create a better life for all the people in Fairfield and Gonzales community. Over the years, I've been involved with and on board of many, many community groups. Nowhere have I met better people than the members of this association. That's the honest to God truth. I want to thank our committee chairs for doing much of the actual work of FGCA. Thanks to our members for rising to the occasion when called upon. Your ongoing support of FGCA is so truly appreciated. I'm not going to try to highlight all our accomplishments for the sake of the 1 hour we have, but there are a few that need to be mentioned. That is exceptional, hardworking executive. Wow, what an executive we've had. Dave Thompson's always on his toes, vice president. Brian, our spot-on treasurer, and our exceptional secretary, and Brian Rowley, our sharp-eyed governance chair. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. And last, but certainly not least, a big shout out to our 2 remarkable executive directors, Christina and Vanya, for the exceptional dedication and determination to make Fairfield the best neighborhood association anywhere, the best neighborhood association anywhere in Victoria and perhaps on this earth. In addition to these, our wonderful hardworking board. Let's not forget dedication and great work of our committee chairs. I hope I don't forget anybody. Scott Davis, the Garden Committee, Joanna Fox from Calic, Julia Warren, Street Life, Quinn Fletcher and Michael Hirsch, and Dave Thompson from the Neighborhood Improvement Association, and of course, Brian from the Finance Committee. Thank you so much for all you've done. I think all of you should be very pleased with what we as a society has accomplished. I really do. I believe almost all what we set out to do was looked after. I thank all of you ever so much. So in closing, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve as your president. My main personal goal in this role was for all of us to have fun together while supporting the things that matter to our members and the residents of Fairfield Gonzales. I think we came pretty close to that because of all of you. So thank you. I also like to take the time right now to thank our outgoing board members. We have Brian Rowley, Scott Davis, Dave Malinsky, and Patricia Ward. As your time on the FGCA board comes to a close, we want to express a sincere gratitude for your outstanding service. Board service can be one of the toughest volunteer roles. I'm very pleased to say that the four of you took on the board duties with dedication and true commitment. We're most grateful for your active leadership and dedication to our organization. I truly know not continuing or seeking a second term was clearly a difficult decision for you. I like to quote something that I think is apropos for right now. Wisdom is knowing what to do next. Virtue is doing it. You are all wise and dedicated, and we are very grateful you share these qualities with FGC as a board member. I'm sure we'll all miss you. I know I will. As a board member, we look forward to staying in touch with each other for many years to come. Once again, thank you all, you four, for everything you've done. End of my president's report. Any questions from anyone? Okay, moving on to the treasurer's report. Brian?
Yeah, thank you very much, Don, and good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us tonight. It's really good to see a lot of familiar faces and familiar names, and also some new folks as well. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Brian Batney, and I'm the treasurer on the board of directors for the FGCA, and I've been on the board of directors for 3 years now, and served the entire time as treasurer. What I'm going to do is provide some highlights and some insights on the financial statements that were posted to the website, and I believe they've also been posted to the chat as well. So so you can get a link there if you don't already have them open. I'll give everyone just a couple minutes to find the financial statements if you want to follow along. But while you're doing that, I want to actually just start off the presentation with noting what I think are the three main takeaways from the financial statements this year. And of course, if anybody's got any other questions at the end about what I've said or about the details, please feel free to ask. Christina and Vanya and I can answer those.
Sorry, Brian, can I just ask, do you want me to share the financials on the screen?
Oh, yeah, if you
Yeah,
can,
okay.
that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Sure.
And
maybe
then just tell me when to scroll along.
Okay, well, maybe if you could open them up and start at page 7, that would be great.
Great, just give me a moment.
And just as we get that set up, I'll just start off with kind of, again, the three main takeaways, and I'll be covering these in the details. But the first main takeaway that I would like to highlight is that the FGCA at the beginning of the pandemic was in a good financial position. And after 18 months of the pandemic and all the uncertainty and all the, everything that's gone on with the pandemic, we are still in a good financial position. So I'll go through some of the details that back that up. The second main takeaway from this presentation is that one of the biggest assets of this organization, as Dawn and Christina and Vanya have covered, is our staff. We have fantastic staff, and we've made a very meaningful investment in the staff this year to make ourselves an employer of choice, and then also really to be a leader in the sector as well. And the third main takeaway is, well, looking forward, when no one's got a crystal ball, and I think if there's one thing we've learned from the pandemic is we don't know what's happening next. But at any rate, even with that uncertainty, we're in a really good position to continue to serve the community well into the future. So I see that we have, the page 7 up of it's a 14-page file. If you're looking at it in electronic form, it's page 7. I wanted to start off with the statement of revenues and expenditures. And you'll see right at the bottom of the screen, basically what the bottom line is for the organization this year. And you'll see that we did run a deficit for the 21 fiscal year, but that really should be looked at in combination with the 2020 year. And one thing that was really remarkable about just everything that's gone on with the pandemic, of course, had such a big impact on the organization. But you'll see close to the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side, we received some support from the federal government that led us to having a substantial surplus in 2020. And it was just the timing of when we received the money. We recognized it in that year, although it was really to help the organization through the pandemic. So when you look at the deficit for the 2021 year, you have to also look at the surplus we had in 2020. So again, throughout the pandemic, we've still maintained a good financial position, even though we've had the deficit for this year. The board did pass a deficit budget for this year of a total of $170,000. And as you can see, it's a little over 124 is where it's ended up. Just a couple things around around our revenues. You'll see compared to 2020, 21, we saw some increases in revenues. And part of that was just because of the pandemic. Some of our programs weren't operating in the same way as in 2020 compared to 2021. Another factor in that was the start of our Huckleberry Infant Toddler program. Just as a program that was so needed in the community, we were able to start up that program. And of course, we realized some revenue as a result from that. And of course, the flip side to that is in our expenses, those correspondingly increase as well, especially you'll see in the wages and benefits. Operating more programs requires more staff. So there was an increase there. And then we also had some program startup costs with that new Huckleberry program. Another thing that I really wanted to highlight that was, I think, just a really important thing that the organization did this year, and this shows up in our wages in our wages line, is as I said earlier, we've got fantastic staff, and we want to do everything we can to support our staff. And the pandemic has placed really an unprecedented hardship on our childcare services, and in particular, all the staff that are running the services. They had to adapt to the safety risks that were presented as a result of the pandemic, and had to do some work around that. Luckily, the provincial government subsidized this health and safety work by allowing the FGCA to apply for some supports to hazard pay. However, this program ended in August of 2021, but of course the risk didn't. The pandemic's still going on. So in response, the FGCA continued to provide the hardship pay, and we elected to pay this hazard pay to the frontline childcare staff from September 1st to June 30th, or from June 30th to September, to kind of bridge that gap. And as it's been just clearly demonstrated through the pandemic, the child care services we provide are so important to the community. So we just wanted to recognize this, recognize the risks that staff are facing. Additionally, what we've done throughout the pandemic is we've adjusted our wage grid so that all staff working at the FGCA are earning a living wage right now. And that was, I think, a really meaningful thing that we've done in terms of demonstrating leadership in our sector, and then also just doing the right thing by our staff, making sure that everybody is earning a living wage, and we'll strive to continue to do that in the future. So that's all reflected in our wages and benefits as well. But of course, just an enormous payoff associated with doing the right thing for all of our staff. Now I'll ask that we back up to page 6, and I just want to comment just really briefly on the statement of changes in net assets. Yeah, perfect. So this is showing our changes in net assets from 2020 to 2021. And you'll see on the right-hand side, the deficit number, the 124 and change, is reflected in the net assets. Additionally, another key piece is, and you'll see kind of in the middle of the page, the $20,000. That was a fund that was set up for starting up our Huckleberry program. So with the bottom line is, you'll see from 2020 to 2021, a decrease in our net assets, but we still have a substantial amount of assets for the organization. So again, looking, comparing the beginning of the pandemic to where we are now, we're still in really good shape financially. And I'll ask whoever's driving, or Vanya, to back up to page 5, I'll briefly touch on our statement of financial position. Perfect, thanks. Just one noteworthy thing here for those of you who've combed through and are comparing the 2020 to 21 numbers, you'll see that we've had a fairly substantial increase in cash and then also in deferred revenue. And the substantial piece here is that we received an early payment on our youth and family counseling contract payment, but it's for services that are going to be done in the future. So that's why we have an increase in cash in 2021, but also a big increase in deferred revenue. So it's just recognized that we received an early payment for something that's going to happen in the future. So it's just basically kind of an accounting of the numbers. So those are the main highlights that I wanted to cover in the presentation. Hopefully my main takeaways at the beginning of the presentation were helpful, but I'd like to open it up for any questions anybody has on anything that I've said, or anything else in the financial statements. And Vanya and Christina can help out with a lot of the details if anybody has any detailed questions. See Dave has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment after it's all done, but if one of the members wants to go ahead of me, I can wait.
Looks like no one else is in line, Gabe. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly speak to the members about the finances, because they're quite a bit different this year, as Brian has pointed out, than in previous years. So it's our job, it's the board of directors' job to look after the finances on behalf of you, the members. So we're working for you. And as you heard from Brian, there were some dramatic increases and decreases in some of the numbers this year. So I just wanted to assure members that there was a lot of scrutiny of those numbers by Brian, the treasurer, by his finance committee, and by the board of directors. And we had a lot of long meetings that went late night, and we got into a lot of details just to ensure that the financial risks are being managed, but also the staffing risks and the program risks. You'll recall that we had all sorts of changes take place on program delivery, if you were paying attention to how childcare and schooling went this past 20 months or so. And as you've seen from Brian's presentation, it all came really close to balancing out, and we've come through the pandemic quite well so far. No telling where the pandemic is going to go, of course, and what the future will hold in terms of, the disease or our financial picture. But just to be rest assured that it's getting a lot of attention and a lot of scrutiny. And please get vaccinated. And if you have any friends and family who are hesitant, please encourage them. Thanks. That's my comments.
Thank you, Dave. Any other questions to Brian or to Dave, to anyone regarding the financials? If not, I thank you, Brian, for the excellent work you've done this year, the sharp eye. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a couple motions before we move on in the agenda.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask for. Yeah.
Okay. I move that that members accept the 2020-21 financial statements as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you. Dave Thompson seconds it. Any questions? Question there, Kathleen? Nope. Okay. Any questions going once? Anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining from the motion? Motion carried. Thank you. Brian?
Right. I have another motion to move. I move to appoint the accounting firm Lee and Company as the FGCA's accounting firm for the 2022 fiscal year.
Thank you. Who would like to second that, please? Thank you, Joanna. Any questions? Anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining from the motion? Thank you. Motion carried. Anything further, Brian?
Nothing further. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Brian. Everyone will give a round of applause to Brian for an outstanding job he's done this year. Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our executive director's report.
Thank you, Don, and thank you, Brian, for your report. I apologize that my screen sharing wasn't as smooth as it could have been, but it worked out. So I don't even know where to start. So much has happened this year. I think the key place to start is I really encourage all of you to go look at our annual report. It's up on the website. Erin's going to put it up in the chat here as well. And if you want a paper copy, we can also get you a paper copy. But just the act of going through all of our programs and services, all of our projects, all of our committees, and looking at everything that happened this year, I was frankly blown away because not only did we maintain most of our levels of service throughout this challenging year, we added a number of new supports, new activities. The board had new things going on. They had a really fantastic town hall meeting. They ran an all candidates meeting in collaboration with the James Bay Neighborhood Association in the fall. They had some new committees or newish committees that were, just kept working away. We expanded our food programs, just so many things. So I really encourage you all to go look at that report. And then just for myself, it's been a challenging year, but, we're in the business of people, and people are what absolutely inspires me in this job and keeps me coming to work and keeps me excited about what I'm doing. People are how we do our work. They're who we serve. They are how we build a great community, and we do have an amazing community. I think we all can agree on that. I'm especially inspired by all of our volunteers. It's been a challenging year to be volunteering, and the fact that anyone has had any extra bandwidth to give back of their own volition to their community is just absolutely inspiring to me. So I want to mention that we have book club volunteers who have been keeping that going through the pandemic, and that I know has been a lifeline for some of the folks who attend that every month. They just really love that social interaction and the learning. We have food security volunteers. We have a whole amazing team. In particular, I want to single out Debbie, who kind of runs our food security store and makes a really welcoming and safe environment for some vulnerable people to come in and shop for free food, rescued food, and donated food. We had a lot of volunteers help out with our Get Growing that we did in partnership with the city, where we distributed thousands, I believe, of seedlings so people could grow their own food on their balconies and their yards. A lot of people who had never grown anything before were able to do so through that program. So that was really amazing. We had a number of volunteers working with unhoused people in our neighborhood, the neighborhood solidarity with the unhoused group, who have just been a powerhouse of community action, providing direct support to the most vulnerable people in our neighborhood, and going on to do a lot of housing advocacy and really important work to do their best to make sure that everyone in our community has adequate housing and is treated with dignity. And certainly not least, our board and committees. A couple people have mentioned them already, but these are the folks who give countless hours to this association, who really believe in it, who really believe in community work and community building. So every single person who's served on our board this year and every single person who's come to committee meetings, I think a lot of the fun has been drawn out of board and committee work. We don't get to meet in person. We don't get to have snacks. We don't get to have the conversations and the jokes before and after our meetings. And yet you kept coming out and you've kept doing your good work. and, fulfilling your duties. And it's just amazing to me that you maintain that level of commitment in such a hard, such a trying, such a lonely, often year. So thank you to all of you for the work you do. And I want to just also point out, it was brought up recently, but just the board leadership in implementing living wage for this coming fiscal year. Just noting we're in contact with lots of other nonprofit agencies and childcare providers, etc., around the community, and folks are closing. People are shutting their doors and not able to provide care because they can't staff their programs. And the fact that the board has shown the leadership and the vision to provide a living wage to our staff, to treat them really well, to provide hazard pay over the pandemic, has meant that we haven't had to do that, that we've had a really strong team who are dedicated and committed to being here and feel valued. So yeah, just thank you for that. And that will close my bit, and I'm going to pass it over to Christina. Hopefully I didn't say everything. Sorry, Christina.
Yeah, I'll try to tack on what I can. Vanya's got a really eloquent way of using her words. So my role is, as you know, we have a shared leadership model, and the best way I always describe it is that Vanya is kind of the out and I'm the in. So where I focus my report on is the operations and what's happening internally. As we know, the pandemic, created a lot of large disruptions to our childcare services, which is the primary service we offer in our community. However, fast forward, if you can say fast forward, it felt a little bit slow at times, to the September 2020, where we were able to get things up to full operation, which as Vanya and Brian in the Treasurer's Report was able to allude to, was to me phenomenal, because not only were we able to get up to the level of service from previous years, we were able to expand. So as of 2020, we currently offer 259 childcare spaces to the Fairfield Gonzales area to children aged 10 months to 12 years. This includes all-day programming, so all-day childcare, before and after school care, preschool care, summer camp programming. All, as we have all learned, is vital to the health of our economy and our community health. And then with that, we added 8, as much as it may seem like a nominal number, it was huge internally, 8 little infant toddler spaces to our operation, which was such a monumental moment because it was the final part of our long-term strategy to provide a continuum of care model here at the FGCA, which meant that we were able to provide care to children within their community setting from the age of 10 months until 12 years of age, which we all believe adds to, again, and I'll say it over and over, our community health and how we thrive as a community. While opening the center in the middle of a pandemic definitely presented its unique challenges, we were just thrilled, and the response to this program has been astounding. Not only did we have family members or families that currently had children of an older age able to send their sibling child to our program, but we were also able to attract extremely qualified staff to this program and give them the platform to create something in an autonomous way that was unique to their skill sets, their creativity, and let it grow. And it has, a year later, just about, a couple of weeks out, turned into this program that feels like it's been here for years. It feels in the middle of our center, it adds this abundance of energy in the middle of the day as we have we call them the huckleberries, come through the middle of the center, and they wave and everyone knows every one of their names. And, it just, again, brought us back to why we're here and why we do this work. The pandemic, as a social service provider, where in a time remote work was what was essentially forced upon us, was not an option for us. We had to do this work and we had to do it in person. And, with the distance that it created within our organization that presented its own challenges and its own, I guess, human resources challenges, for lack of a better word. But being able to, again, expand and flourish and do things that we're good at really grounded us and allowed us to connect this year. I will say, you know, childcare, I talk a lot about it because it is our largest service that we do provide, but, you know, in particular, it's such a needed service in Victoria. I'll pull from a quote that I often pull from, that in the city of Victoria, there are only enough childcare spaces for 40% of the child population aged 0 to 12, which is not nearly enough. And so as we think about our work, we are just doing our part, and we are trying our best to do our part to contribute to that percentage. So with all of that, and I could go on and on about all of our services, but we thought it would be lovely to end our ED report with a video that we created, or we didn't, we had professionals create it, but we hired them to do it, for our Moss Rock preschool program. And this was in lieu of an open house. Obviously, as the pandemic struck us, we were unable to offer open house, which is when individuals can come and make themselves aware of how the program runs. We switched gears. And so we're going to show you that video. However, I definitely could not end the report without acknowledging our staff, and Vanya has already acknowledged our staff, but we can't say enough great things about who we are, because who we are is all of the people here in our organization, and this work is important, but the people that do the work, the dedication and the commitment we see day in, day out, gives Vanya and I the energy to continue to strive to make this a great place of employment for them, to make it a place where they can come and feel a part of something bigger than them. So I will end that now, and Vanya is going to hopefully pull up the video, and just be a little bit patient. We did test this, and it seems a bit slow at the beginning, but it does catch up. So stay tuned. While she pulls up the video, I will maybe introduce the people that are in it. Josh Douglas Tabbitt is our preschool manager. And I will again, put in a little quip about him. He's been here for 2 years, and he has taken this program further than I've actually probably ever seen it be taken. And every day, even though this video is shot on site, that program is in a different location across Fairfield and Gonzales. So they are right out of the gun. They are headed to Gonzales. They are headed up to Government House, and every day they're exploring and understanding the land that we are on, and it's just such an enriching program. Can I stop talking? Okay.
Children are capable, individual, explorative human beings who deserve the opportunity to interact and explore the environment around them. At Moss Rock Preschool, we offer just that, intentional, unstructured programming in order to discover what this beautiful place has to offer. Moss Rock Preschool runs Monday to Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. and it has 2 educators and 18 children registered. It runs congruent to the school year, which means it's closed during July and August and during winter and spring breaks.
We are a nature-based program. That means we will spend the day outside, whether it be rain or snow or sunny days. But because we're only a nature-based and not a nature program, that means when the weather is terrible and not nice, we will happily go inside and do activities and learning in our classroom. I believe children are the best scientists. They want to discover, learn everything about their natural space. They are constantly asking questions about how the world works. In the outside space that we use, they're truly interacting with their environment, creating meaningful connections with the natural space, and doing hands-on learning.
The objective is to create these foundational relationships that children can carry on with them for the rest of their lives. And it's a beautiful thing when we see children start at Moss Rock at the age of 3, then move into school, into out-of-school care, and those relationships are still strong and keeping our community connected.
Thanks for watching, and that concludes our report. Dawn, you're on mute.
I know, my wife loves that. She wishes she had a button to put me on mute. Before I thank you, there are a couple of questions coming up here. First one is Lynn. Go ahead, Lynn.
That's not a question, that's a clap. That's a thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Dave, you had a question?
Yeah, mine's also a clap, but also just a little comment. And I try not to editorialize too much on this, but it's a vitally important service when you think about how expensive this city has become to live in. And the need for a lot of families, if we're going to live in this community together, the need for a lot of families to have 2 incomes and have both parents working. But it's also the childcare service that we offer is also community building. And you really have to drop by the community center to see it in action. You see people coming to drop off the kids or pick up the kids, but they also jump into conversations, whether it's in the center or the parking lot or out back in Porter Park. And that's really what community is, like these spontaneous social interactions. And so I think that the value of the childcare service goes way beyond providing childcare and into community building. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. I just want to say, and I have to be careful how I say it because I don't want to overextend how fantastic our 2 executive directors are. I've been on numerous boards for the past 40 years here in Victoria, currently on around 20. So I've dealt with about 40 executive directors over my time here in Victoria. And we are so fortunate, again, so fortunate to have Christina and Vanya here. Without them, I don't think we'd still be around today. So ladies, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I think everyone around here on this meeting will give you a round of applause. So with that said, with your permission, Dave asked if he could give one quick report before we move on. I know it's not on the agenda, but I'll allow Dave to have this exception.
Okay, it's just a continuation of some of the committee reports. So I hadn't managed to submit my committee report in time, but it's a brief discussion of the Neighborhood Improvement Committee and the Climate Action Group, the work that those volunteers have been doing for the community. Those who were here at last year's AGM will recall the origins of the Neighborhood Improvement Committee. It was to do land-oriented and community-oriented work that didn't really fit with the CALEC. The CALEC's role being to convene meetings and relay the content of those meetings to the city. So some of you may have heard the claim that FGCA can't do advocacy because it's a charity, and of course that claim isn't true. It never was true. Charities do advocacy, and the Canada Revenue Agency has made it perfectly clear that they can do so. So Nick takes the lead on the number of the advocacy functions of the community association, of course, running it by the board because the board's the final decision maker. And on our website, you'll see some of the letters from the board to the city, and they touch on a wide range of issues. So the Neighborhood Improvement Committee has been working with parents at the schools on safety risks from motor vehicles on Fairfield Road and nearby streets. You may have noticed the speed reader boards on the street on Fairfield Road. We've been asking for a number of years, and one of our great volunteers, Patricia Ward, has been working on it for many years, tirelessly watching out for the safety of the kids, and she's been a great board member and a great neighbor. More recently, we've been asking for intersection improvements at several intersections along Fairfield Road and other streets near the schools. Also asking the city for better parks in underserved areas, a lot less green space in some parts of the neighborhood than others. We asked for the design of the Richardson Bikeway to get more neighborhood consultation with an extra open house. We didn't succeed in asking in getting that from the city. We also asked the city to ensure that disabled parking is being preserved and so many more things on advocacy that FGCA has been doing. Nick, the Neighborhood Improvement Committee, also liaises with the Fairfield Gonzales Climate Action Group, which is meeting monthly and has developed some brochures to help inform residents about home energy efficiency and where they can get the services for it and where they can get rebates and financial support for it. So if you want to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions and save some money, have a look at those brochures. They're on the website. We also worked to help a couple of community groups beautify their streets and improve safety through traffic calming, and specifically by the installation of some garden beds in handmade wooden planters. And I would invite you to have a look at those. They're on the Brighton Greenway and Madison Greenway. And by all means, stop and say hello to people out there. If you see them out weeding or adding new plants, they're probably not watering the plants anymore. Thanks, that's it for me.
Dave, thank you so much. You know, the chairs of each one of our committees, and we have numerous committees on this board, all do remarkable jobs. CALIC, and community gardens, you know, street life, they all do a fantastic job. Nick has been a great inspiration to all of us. As you said earlier, to be able to advocate, take on positions that we can't do through CALIC. And CALIC has been fantastic under Joanna's leadership. So I think we'll all have a great round of applause for every one of the committee members. So with that said, we're running behind time, so we'll do our best to get out of here as quick as we can. As people know me, I like to begin and end on time, but I guess I won't do that on my last AGM. I need a motion to receive all the reports. Somebody would like to make that motion, please? So moved by Dave, seconded by Quinn. Any questions? Anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining from the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. So right now I hand it over to our governor's chair, Brian, who will take it from there on some motions that were put forward for this meeting to be able to change some of our bylaws. Go ahead, Brian.
Don, I just see that Ben has his hand up.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, it was just a quick comment following up on Dave's report. Just wanted to thank Dave and the committee for the really valuable input they've provided to council for as we get into budgeting for our 2022 budget. Next week, council will be looking at transportation expenditures, park improvements, community service improvements. And so the letter, I guess the input that Dave gathered that Vanya sent in a letter is very useful. So just wanted to thank you for that and thank all the staff and board for their contributions.
Thank you, Ben. And while we're thanking, I want to thank you on behalf of our entire board for coming up with the resolution to get GNA and us together to try to find a compromise for how we're going to move forward together. Thank you for doing that, Ben.
Yeah, and happy to help with that. I did notice, I'm happy to roll up my sleeves as well. So I'll take the lead of the FGCA and the GNA. Whatever external support you want, there's city financial support for getting that mediation services. But if you want me to participate in any way, just let me know. And I'm happy to help find where there's some common ground and figure out a path forward for the associations and the neighborhoods.
Thank you so much, Ben. I think that would really help. I did send a letter out to GNA. I haven't heard back and trying to get us both together. Maybe you could be at that meeting so we can find how we're going to hire the mediator and what the ground rules will be for that mediation. So we'll
sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you again. Any other questions before we move it on to Brian to take on the governance role at this point? Hearing none, Brian R., take it away, sir.
Thank you, John. So we're presenting a notice of a special resolution for you. And in the interest of sort of time, I'll just kind of summarize what it's all about. So it's actually about the past president, who is going to be Dawn as of tonight. But we want, we're looking to make some changes because it kind of fits with our community model of giving opportunities to individuals of the community to participate regardless of things like term limits and that sort of thing. So basically what tonight is about, what this special resolution is about, is giving the past president an opportunity to stay on the board. So I'll just sort of summarize how the past president is currently defined in our bylaws, and then I'll proceed to discussing the proposed changes, and then we will vote on a couple of motions, amendments, sorry, to the bylaws. So currently, how the past president is defined is the past president serves on the board as an ex officio, non-voting member for the duration of their term as past president. The past president may also be a regular voting member of the board. This occurs if they are midway through their 2-year term when stepping down as president, or if they are reelected to the board. In other situations, the past president is not a regular voting member of the board and only has ex officio non-voting status. This may occur if they have reached their term limit and have not been reelected to the board or choose not to stand for the board. So the past president's term lasts until there is a new past president, and this could be anywhere from 1 year up to 6 years. And as Vanya was mentioning in her accolades towards Dawn's a very valuable person to our association. And again, we want to keep this community model strong and continue to help build a strong, vibrant community. So where we're looking to make some changes is that the past president will serve as a voting member of the board for the duration of the term as past president. The past president will not count towards the 14-member maximum. So we may have up to 15 directors on the board, including the past president. And the past president's term will be defined as 1 year with an option for the board to extend this by 1 additional year. So without further ado, I present the motion indicated in the box and everyone has access to it, but I'll just give it a quick read for you all to kind of hear it verbally as well. So the motion is, be it resolved by special resolution that the members of the FGCA adopt the following change to the bylaws. So we're discussing amending 4.5, which currently reads, the immediate past president of the board, notwithstanding the 6-year term limit, may serve on the board in the capacity of past president until a new past president assumes the position. And now it will read, the immediate past president of the board, notwithstanding the 6-year limit, may serve on the board in the capacity of past president for a term of 1 year, which may be extended for 1 additional year by a motion of the board. And the second amendment is 6.3, which currently reads, the outgoing president of the board shall serve in the position of past president. The past president is an ex officio member of the board without voting privileges. And so where this will change to is the outgoing president of the board shall serve in the position of past president. Past president is a member of the board with full voting privileges. Past president will not count towards the 14-member maximum of directors. So I'd like to make the motion. Yes, Don.
Because there's 2 separate motions, is there not?
No, this is a one motion with 2 amendments.
All right.
Yeah.
So Brian moves those 2 motions, 1 motion with 2 amendments. I need a seconder, please. So move by, people seconds it. Thank you.
Wait, no, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Is this where we get to ask questions about the motion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I get seconded. No, I need to get seconded first.
Okay.
Okay, Lynn seconds it. Thank you. Now go ahead.
I guess I'm just curious about, my understanding of the bylaw as it is that the 6-year term limit is to encourage sort of diversity of leadership and mentoring of new board members to take on the president role. And I thought that was a good thing. And so I'm curious if this bylaw change is to I guess I'm curious how this will benefit the FGCA, if someone wants to speak to that.
Well, because I'm the one that probably instituted this whole change, maybe I can speak to it. If that's okay?
Sure.
Okay. Currently, as past president, I stay on until the new past president becomes past president. That can be up to 6 years. The new bylaw, it can't be more than 2 at the maximum, 1, and then the board has to vote again for the second. So it limits the amount of time I can be on the board, but while I'm on the board, it gives me voting rights to be able to vote on a motion. That's all it does. It doesn't change anything else in any shape or form, or how it influences new board members, how we can groom board members to become the president, or how we can move down the road altogether. So it does nothing like that. Actually, it limits the amount of time rather than increases the amount of time.
So do other directors have to step down after 6-year term limit? Like I know Scotty's leaving this year. Yes?
Yes, they all do.
Okay. And so why do we want that to continue for other board members, but not for the past president role?
Because that's the way it's always been, because you need someone to run the election for the executive coming up. You also need someone to hand off and help the incoming president with some things that happened during the past couple of years to help make their job a little easier and more clear. That's what the president does. This is a very common thing on every board. The past president on every board stays on in one shape or form or another. Some allow them to vote, some don't, some stay on indefinitely, and some stay on for a short period of time. Does that answer your question?
Sort of.
Okay, well, any other questions from anyone? Robin, your hand's up.
Okay, I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think everybody's considering this amendment with Dawn in mind. But what if it was someone very different than Dawn and the 6 years of their tenure had been acrimonious, or that if you have bylaws to allow it, they'd actually been removed. So I just want people who are more familiar with the bylaws or procedures and rules to consider what would happen if it really wasn't good for the organization, for that individual to continue.
That's an excellent question, but this gives you more control. You can boot me out after 1 year. The way the current bylaw reads, you can't boot out that past president until the new president becomes the past president, and that could be up to 6 years. So this gives you much more control than the current bylaws.
Yes, but what happens if they're so bad that you don't even want them 1 year?
Well, that you can't do anything about it. On the current bylaws, you're stuck with it.
Yeah, so perhaps this is just raising a point to consider for a future amendment. Say this thing with the Gonzales group doesn't work out, and there's a fight happening at the board for 6 years. I'm just trying to think of worst case.
Good point, Robin, but it contravenes Robert's Rules of Order, which is in our bylaws that we follow. And Robert Rules of Order allows the past president to stay on until the new president comes into office. It also allows them to vote or not vote, depending upon what that organization would like to see happening. This gives us more control in case we do get a bad president coming down the road. We're still stuck with them for 1 year rather than maybe 6 years. There's no way of removing them completely.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Dave, you had your hand up, I thought.
Yeah, just goes to an earlier point. I just wanted to point out to members that the bylaws already allow for the past president to stay on past the president's original term. And this isn't to create a new position of past president. It doesn't make it any longer. It just makes the difference between voting and non-voting. And our experience has been, the experience on a lot of boards is that when the past president is more engaged, they're just more likely to be attending meetings and participating.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mary? Mary, your hand's up. Okay, Michael?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to address the previous question. Like the bylaws do make a couple of mechanisms available for both the members and the board to remove a board member if there's a wish or a need to do so. So that exists now, would still exist, and I believe it's applicable to someone serving in the past president's role.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good point, Michael. Thank you. What Michael
Okay.
just said was that in our current bylaws, there was ways to remove a board member or any member if they don't follow the procedure that we think is appropriate and they've stepped out of line. We can do that by a board vote. Mary, your hand's still up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, I just unmuted here. Yes, it's kind of a comment and kind of a question, but I like the idea in one sense of limiting the time to encourage the group to get on and in some way. But the thing is, the way it seems is that their experience is there to help them, but they have had all presidents have had whatever control presidents have in the past. Now it is a consultative role. And I don't think the fact that they could vote makes it any more likely to bring more members to the meeting. I have a concern because now you're going from, you say you've got 14, but you could go 15, which is kind of getting around something. But my main point is, isn't a past president effective enough without the vote? Because now the others and whoever's the new president are now have a chance to do what they will do. And as it were, when you're a consultant, you don't always get listened to, and sometimes you do.
Thank you, Mary. Any other questions, please? Anyone else? Please speak up. Okay, hearing none, then we'll call the vote, and that goes over to you, Vanya, to take it from here.
Thanks, John. So because Zoom isn't really set up, Zoom's polling isn't really set up for meetings in which there are some people who cannot vote. And there are also some people who hold a proxy vote as well as their own vote. So they will have 2 votes. This means it's just going to be a little bit complicated and you're going to have to bear with us. And I'm sorry because of the late hour. But we're going to use a poll in Zoom. It requires a 2/3 threshold to pass. We want to have a clear record of the numbers. So those who cannot vote, who are not members, we're going to send you into a breakout room for a moment while the members vote. The hosts, so myself and Christina and the staff are not able to vote, so we will stay in the voting room. Guests will go off into a breakout room. You'll talk amongst yourselves, and then the members will vote. So I'm going to do the breakout room piece now. And I hope that everyone has fun in the breakout room. So just bear with me. If you see something pop up that you're invited to a breakout room, please join that room. And while I'm doing that, can I ask, is anyone joining us on the telephone? If you are, please speak up. Okay, so here goes the breakout room. And I'll just wait a moment for those people to join the room.
Just quick comment while you're waiting.
Yeah.
I sent the email out to the executive and executive directors that we need an executive meeting after this sometime this week. If you can get back to me on that, because we have to plan for the next board meeting. And the current executive and current president are still the executive and president until that first board meeting. So if you can get back, much appreciated. Thank you. Sorry, Vanya.
Oh, that's good. So we just have one person who still needs to join the breakout room. That's Councillor Isaac. If you could join the breakout room. Apologies, you can't vote. And then I'm going to put up a poll. And so everyone just do the poll and make your vote as quickly as you can. And then we will do a second poll for proxy holders. Okay, so first poll for regular folks.
Just a quick question, sorry.
Yeah.
But how will this poll work? Do I raise my hand or what?
Do you have oh, you're on your iPad? Do you see, a poll come up with 3 choices?
Just a moment. A poll with 3 choices. Darn it. No, I don't. I'm on my iPad because it works better than my computer. But my computer. Oh, there's polls. Wait a minute. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So
I've never used it
it
on an iPad, so I don't know how it works. But
Okay,
you see it?
do I hit it?
Just click the one you want, and then you're done.
Okay, thank you. I'm
Okay.
glad. Thanks for helping me find it. I'm trying to do. Hey, no. Yeah.
Mary, if it's not working, we can figure out another method for you.
Okay. Well, I just hit one. Oh, let's see if it works.
Okay.
Submit.
There you go. It worked.
Okay,
I saw
thank
it.
you.
Yeah. Okay, I believe everyone has voted. So I'm going to end that poll. Okay. And now I'm going to do one for just folks who are holding a proxy. There's just, I think, 3 people who also hold a proxy vote. And so, oops, I'm getting taken away from my screen here. And so we'll just double check. We're going to just ask everyone who's not holding a proxy to not vote in this poll. And we will double check and our records against those who are holding a proxy and make sure it's just people who have a proxy vote that are voting. So here comes that poll. Wait, here we go. Proxy holders. And there we go. Okay, I think I have too many people participating, but that's okay. We're just going to count the ones who we know have a proxy. Great. This is fun and exciting. Okay, so downloading those results, and we will have those. We'll get those results tabulated in a minute. I think we'll. I'm going to have to print out the results for our scrutineers.
While you're
Yes.
doing that, it makes sense to move on to the election. Of the
Yeah,
board.
let's move on to the election.
Thank you. Okay, so the nomination committee.
Wait,
report-
hang on a sec, Don. I'm just going to bring everyone back from the breakout room. So just give them 1 minute to come back.
Why don't we let
We've
Brian
got
start off?
3 seconds. Sorry, was that Don?
I thought just let Brian start the nomination report.
Oh, great. Yep, we're good. Everyone should be back.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Don. So yeah, the FGCA nomination committee report. The nominating committee is always looking for members who are interested in serving as directors of the board. Our goal is to have a wide range of skills and experience on the board. We use a matrix to determine what skills and attributes our board has and what needs we have for recruitment. This matrix demonstrated that our board has a wealth of knowledge in many core areas like executive leadership, nonprofit management, governance, and fundraising. Skill areas that could be further developed include risk management, accounting, facilities management. And we continue seeking potential candidates that could contribute to these skills. We are also committed better reflecting the diversity of our community on the board. Our call for nominations went out to our Observer newspaper, to 4,500 households, to all of our members, subscribers, which are about 1,500, and all of our social media channels, to Volunteer Victoria, the Times columnist, and various community partner agencies. Directors must be members of the association. They must consent to serve as directors, and they must not be disqualified for being directors under the BC Societies Act, which lays out a number of conditions for directors for nonprofit societies. So under the FGCA bylaws, we have up to 14 directors. This year we have 8 available vacancies and 3 nominees. Nominations closed 5 business days prior to the AGM. There will be no nominations from the floor. The board may choose to accept additional directors throughout the year when there are vacancies. So our 3 nominees for the 21 to 2023 term are David Thompson, Philip Stockins, and Caitlin McGuire. No election will be required and all the nominees will be acclaimed. We wish to thank all the outgoing board members for their commitment, time, and good work on the board. All the best in your next endeavors. And so that was from myself, Dawn, and Don Mansour and Quinn Fletcher. And we have just, I won't read them out, except I'll read, well, actually, I could read them out.
Brian, we'll ask the candidates to speak, except Philip's not in attendance. He wasn't able to make it tonight. So
okay.
Do you want to read Philip's first, and then we'll ask Caitlin and Dave?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure, yeah. So Philip Stockins. So Philip has actually served on our board before, and he's a graduate of UBC and spent much of his professional life in heavy construction or related fields as a financial officer and manager. He has worked on volunteer boards in various capacities and was the executive director for 7 years at BC and Yukon for Canadian Youth Hostels, a not-for-profit society. Philip has lived in Fairfield Gonzales since 2010 and has previously on the FGCA board for multiple terms. He is currently volunteering with the Montreal Community Center, and Philip is interested in and committed to the services offered that can be provided and to the community through organizations like the FGCA. And Dave, why don't you go next?
Dave?
Sorry, I saw that my bio information was up there. Should I speak to that or should I avoid that, Vanya?
Just go ahead and give us a brief bio really quick.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. So my work currently is in consulting on fiscal and economic analysis and budget analysis, as well as environmental policy and sustainable communities. And I have a background in law and economics. So I've lived in Rockland and James Bay, and I'm really happy to be living where I am now, which is in the Gonzales portion of the neighborhood. So if you want more Gonzales representation rather than less on the board, please vote for me. Love my neighborhood. It's set in a forest. It's full of free range kids and people walking in the streets who stop and admire the gardens and say hello and chat with one another. And that's, to me, the sort of the meaning of community. I've been on the board since 2017, and I'm currently the vice president and chair of the Neighborhood Improvement Committee. I'm the liaison with the Climate Action Group, and I sit as a member of the Street Life and CALEC committees. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Caitlin?
Yes, hello everyone, Caitlin McGuire. I'm really pleased to be here and very much excited to be joining the board. I am also a longtime resident of the region. I actually grew up on Moss Street, and I'm also now in the Gonzales area. So if that has any particular cachet, I guess that's good to know. I'm a public servant and have focused most of my career on emergency management. And since moving back to the neighborhood a few years ago, I've been looking for the right opportunity to contribute to the community and to get to know more like-minded people. So thanks so much for your consideration, and not to be presumptuous, but looking forward to getting to know many of you more. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Any questions to any of the nominees? Okay, next up is the election of the nominees. As Brian pointed out, we have 8 vacancies and we have 3 nominees. So before we take the motion, just to let you know, there are 5 additional vacancies on our board. We can appoint a board member interim until the next AGM. It doesn't count on your 3 two-year terms. It's additional terms, so possibly you can even run for 7 years if you're appointed midterm during that election. So currently, the 3 candidates that are up, I need a motion to move that those 3 people are become elected to the board. Moved by Brian R., seconded by Joanna. All in favor? Anyone against? So by acclamation, the 3 new board members have been reappointed. 1 has been reappointed, and welcome to the 2 new board members. Thank you so much. Moving back to the election. Do we have the results, please?
I believe we do. Christina, do you want to?
Yeah,
You have it?
the resolution on the table did not pass.
Okay,
We had 47% vote not in favor and 53% vote in favor. So needing 2/3, it has died.
okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you, folks. So you're stuck with me for as long as you have the new president. So thank you. And nothing changes. And sometimes that's for the better. Any other questions before we close the meeting out? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Joanna, seconded by Brian R. Anyone against the motion? Anyone abstaining? I apologize for the lateness of the meeting. Thank you all for being with us and sticking around for the whole meeting. Have a wonderful evening. Motion passed. We are now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Everyone.
Night.
Night, everyone.